Welcome to the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve the life you dream of simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. With your host, Tina Encarnacion, the author of Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience, trauma and abuse coach, an energy healer, and Reiki master. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in again to the Belief Breakthrough Show. We are having another amazing episode in our Spiritual Awareness Month. I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to us once again. The Belief Breakthrough Show stands on the belief that through shifting your perspective, through shifting your beliefs, you can break through the glass ceiling and achieve anything you want in your life. My name is Tina Encarnacion. I am an author, a Reiki master, and a trauma and abuse coach. If you want to hear more about my personal story, you can read it in my book, Stuck in the Fire, which you can find on my website, healingbytina.com. Today, we have an amazing woman. Oh my gosh, hearing her story just lit me up. We jive. We are like soul sisters. So this is Caryn. She is the Dragon Doula. And she is everything spiritual you can imagine, want to know about. Drop your questions below. Let us know where you're coming in from and allow her to just tell you her amazing story of transformation and inspire you to understand the depths of your soul. Go ahead, Caryn. Tell us all about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina, and thanks for having me. So I am Caryn Terres. I'm the Dragon Doula. And when I say dragon, I'm talking dragon, as in I was born an earth dragon in the Chinese zodiac. My mom is a Chinese zodiac dragon as well. My husband was super into dragons. He's got a giant tattoo. Like, dragons literally ruled my whole life. And I realize now that they were protecting me from really ever fully disconnecting from magic or from what was available in the quantum realm via either spell casting or meditation or massage therapy or even science and tech. So we were Trekkies. We were talking about that before the show when I was growing up. But I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is the epitome of the patriarchy as far as I'm concerned, especially in the 1990s. It was very much you were either LDS or you were not, which is Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Mormons. And we were not. We're from Southern California, and not only were we not Mormon, we weren't Catholic or Protestant or any of the other normal religions. We were Unitarian Universalist with a little bit of pagan slapped in there too. So I was going to rituals and Celtic celebrations and maypole dances and all of that when I was a preteen, when my friends were at the shopping mall with their brothers and sisters. And not only that, but I'm also really tall. So you can't tell because I'm sitting down, but I'm actually 6 feet tall. I've always been a very obvious person when I walk into a room, have a lot of that Leo energy as well, and a lot of other things that magnify me in all of my chart to just be a very bright, bubbly, enigmatic, and like just very obvious. And that's not good when you're trying to fit in at school. So I had extreme self-esteem issues my whole life, which were exacerbated by a type A OCD father who, not like, when I explain this, I explain like, if you can imagine what any sitcom in the 80s was showing as parenting, that was just how I was raised, except for I don't have any cousins that live here. Like I said, we're from Southern California. I'm an only child. I had no way of knowing that when I went to my friends' houses, their parents were putting on a show and they were actually dealing with the same stuff at home. So I became completely traumatized by getting spanked and getting yelled at and getting things thrown at me. What we now know is just really abuse, this patriarchal abuse cycle that's really passed down from generation to generation, the spare the rod, spoil the child ideal that really until the last few years with neuroscience that we've actually been able to understand that when a kid gets yelled at, it's the same as spanking them, and that it's really affecting us on a neurological level. Well, my trauma from that became so bad that by the time I was 7, I was wondering, well, if I stuck a fork in this plug, what would happen? By the time I was in high school, well, if I cut myself, they're paying attention to the other girls. So it was a very much what would happen if I was not around. And I made it very obvious that I didn't want to be around. And I always made it a really hard time for people to be around me because I was so soaked in my self-loathing because I never got that approval from my parents. Like all these things that now talking about it are literally laughable. I literally can laugh at it because I understand it so well. But it became physicalized in my body. So as a Reiki master, and for those of you who are watching, obviously you're probably aware that your energy levels, your emotions, your mental state can actually get so intense that it creates physical disease. And fibromyalgia is actually PTSD that's been physicalized. That's what most doctors at this point have decided. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 21, or 20 years old. So pretty young for that sort of diagnosis. And it came after my son was born. I had all these microfractures in my pelvis. I had degenerative arthritis. Literally my MRI looked like a 70-year-old and I was 20. And it was because I had fascinated myself with, I'm just going to die. Like, that's the only way anyone's ever going to pay attention to me. And won't it be interesting to see who shows up at my funeral? And then that would actually lead me into more depression, thinking about nobody fucking likes you. That's the whole reason why you want to die. And I lived in that vibration. I was overweight. I had like 36G breasts by the time I was in high school. I had a breast reduction surgery. I did all the things to manifest difference in my life. I had to be different. I had to be broken. Injuries like knee injuries and things that really weren't that big a deal, I would blow them up out of proportion and be using crutches and all this stuff just so that kids would pay attention to me, because I wasn't a part of the ward. I wasn't hanging out with them after school. I wasn't friends with anybody really. And the friends I did become friends with didn't have my values. They were honestly pretty skanky bitches. I won't lie. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah. And that's just because, again, in the 90s and early 2000s in Utah, that's what it was. You were either these perfect pedestal, like Martha Stewart homes with 7 children and everyone's immaculately clean and they look like they stepped out of a JCPenney ad, or you're a meth addict, or your parents are divorced, or all these negative things. And I didn't fit in either of those. My parents have been married for 38 years. My dad went to therapy by the time I was 10. There were all these things that just, again, separated me. This constant, I don't fit anywhere. I don't fit in anywhere. And it wasn't until giving birth to my daughter 3 years ago, actually, that all of that changed. Like, I had gone to therapy when I was 25 to really process my childhood, and I got body work done, and I was getting Reiki done as well, and I was integrating, and what I was doing was what I call going from unconscious to conscious. So I started becoming aware about how my thoughts were affecting my feelings and how I could actually change my stories to a degree. But what I found is that therapy gave me a ton of excuses, like a ridiculous amount of excuses. And the excuses were, well, this happened to me when I was a kid, so this is how I am. And instead of giving me the power and authority to, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't actually matter. That's just a story. I get to decide if there's any emotional value to it. And so I was still really angry. I still parented, even though I hated the way I was parented. I parented the same way. I was a yeller. I never hit ever, but it was the yelling instead. Like, I have to gain control. I have to be in power, all these things. And then I read a book called The Whole Brain Child by Dr. Dan Siegel. And it talked about how neuroscience can prove that yelling at a child literally triggers the same part of their brain as slapping a child. And my mind blew apart. And I was like, I had a 12-week-old baby at this point, my baby girl, who was born unassisted at home, which was crazy because her 2 older brothers had totally different birth stories. And something had snapped. Something inside of me was like, you have to do better. You have to be better. And it's not for you anymore. It's for her and for your grandchildren and for your great, 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 great grandchildren and for the whole planet. And yes, this sounds really big, but you were born big. You were born to stand out. You had a voice. You used to, when I was 10 years old, I stood on the state Capitol steps and gave a speech about racial injustice because my friend from church had been arrested for just literally being at the wrong place in the wrong time and being Black in a super white part of Utah after a 7-Eleven had just been robbed by another Black man. And I was married by a transgendered minister before anyone was even talking about people who were transgender. He had been my minister since I was 12. It was never a big deal to me. The whole bathroom bill and all those things didn't compute because I was raised with this in my life. There were gays and lesbians and Blacks and everything, like every single thing that you can imagine, the amount of diversity that somehow I was able to find in Salt Lake City, Utah was an enigma, was a total enigma that prepared me for right now. Because while everyone else is waking up, I'm helping people not who are going from unconscious to conscious, but who are ready to go from conscious to super conscious. So what I teach is super conscious living now. And what that is really deep, intense shadow work, shadow integration of truly, I can love every single part of myself. I can love the fact that a part of me really likes to play out mommy dearest. I just don't play that out with my kids. I make sure there's a safe word and I'm with my husband. Right? There's a way to move it around and to have a whole and complete life. And in that time of transformation, all those things that mattered started to drop away. And with that, the matter of my body also did. And I went from a size 14 to a size 8 in like 10 weeks, and then have gone from an 8 to a 2 in another year of just really having extreme integrity with the standards of my life. The standards are so rigid in the fact that they have to have a vibrational feel, even if it's, I'm going to be super lazy today. Do I feel pleasure from this? Do I feel really good about what I'm doing right now? So it's not like a sergeant general standard. It's I have a standard of what is allowed in and out of my space and in and out of my energy. And one of the things that's not allowed in my energy anymore is that anger, is that yelling. So we've broken that generational cycle within our home, and yelling and any form of that control and power has been dissipated by really, okay, kids, you are sovereign. You want to learn how to harness that dragon energy inside of you. You want to learn how to talk to your guides. You want to be connected to my oldest is going to follow me. I can already tell. He'll come up and massage you and like give you like an arm rub after you've been gardening and stuff like that. And my middle is more of a techie guy like his dad is, but we don't let anything except for nature have consequences, really. And even then, there are no mistakes. There are only lessons. You never fail unless you give up. So all the things that in the conscious parenting world is talked about doing for yourself and for your kids, parenting is a really tiny part of things. And it's sometimes really hard for parents to know how to talk to their kids about it, and they're only focused on their kids. So they're not doing it for themselves. And then there's all these people doing all this self-help work for themselves, and they're not transposing it on how they can have that same relationship with their kids, because again, their kids are at school. Like, I personally love COVID-19. Thank you, whoever, for that, because I've been homeschooling for the last several years because I could not put my kids through that public school system after the fact that I charge people money to help them deal with a lot of stuff that they went through in public school or private school or just, education outside of the home in general. And like the way that we teach them, the way they get left behind, no matter what sort of legislations happen, and the bullying, because that was what a huge part of it was for me. Most of my trauma truly came from being 4-eyed, really tall, beanpole, had boobs by the time I was 9, frizzy hair, just all these things that now I'm like, oh, look at my ego and look at my super awesome powers that made me just stand out my whole life. But 3 years ago, No way. No way would I have claimed that. I was totally, completely different person. Like, I wish I had my old ID, because like I used to have to bring my passport with me places because my driver's license didn't look like me and they didn't believe that it was me.
That is such an amazing story. Now, for me, you've spoken on a couple of things that just excite me, and so I want to touch on them.
I'm a wealth of knowledge, baby.
The first thing I want to touch on is spirit work. So for some of the listeners that are listening, they may not understand spirit work. Can you explain what that is?
So do you mean shadow work?
I'm sorry, shadow work.
Okay, yeah. So shadow work or shadow integration comes from the Jungian psychology of, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. That is a very, very famous Jungian quote, Carl Jung, followed immediately by, I'd rather be a whole person than a good person. So really taking all of those traumas that we heal from and reclaiming our power from them, so that we can look in the eye, ourselves in the eye, in the mirror, standing totally naked, no makeup on, and say, I am, or I have been abused, or I am abused, or I am an abuser. And neither of those words mean anything. There's no there's no charge, there's no response. Your body doesn't like physiologically respond to those things. That means that those words no longer have power over you. So other people can't use them against you. Your own ego can't use them against you. And not only that, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, God of your own universe. You need to be really careful about your words, because if you're manifesting on demand, it's like Will Smith in the latest Aladdin, when he's all like, a lot of gray area there, on like he rubs the lamp, he's the genie. It's like, you got to be like really specific about how you make your wish. That's what happens when you're dealing with the superconscious, when you're dealing with manifesting on demand or magic, practical magic, which is what I teach. It's everyday practical magic, way to use your emotions, your energy in motion, from the mental to the physical, and compound it. And instead of letting other people trigger you and you be reactive, you respond to it in a very focused and specific way. And it's because anything out there that could trigger you, you've literally stood there and looked at yourself in the eye and made sure, like, nah, you could call me Donald Trump and it wouldn't. Thank you. There are some parts of him like, okay, like he might be crazy, but he's shameless and he's getting some things done. Yeah, it is what it is.
It's a way of neutralizing the negative energy towards the words and the beliefs within your soul.
Yeah, taking all of those deep-rooted anything that you can think, the scarcity of money in your life. I love when an unexpected bill shows up after I just got paid by a really big client, because that means that a part of me is really, really loving the fact that I'm freaking out about the fact that there's a random bill. So instead of continuing to freak out, I let her have her moment. I'm like, oh yeah, look at this bill. I'm so excited that I got this random bill. And then I'll pay the bill or part of it, and then another client will drop in right afterwards. Versus what used to happen, which was, I can't believe we got a bill. And then the sink would overflow and then flood the basement. Like, it would just compound and compound and compound and compound. Even though I was reading the law of attraction and The Secret and understood that that's exactly what I was doing, because there was this emotional charge to these bad things, like these. The best analogy I give is that when you go from the unconscious to the conscious, you're going from caterpillar to butterfly. You go through the whole dissolving phase, you go through this chrysalis, you create the super strong container, and you can do that 1,000,000 times and have an amazing, amazing freaking life. Going from conscious to super conscious is realizing that you're living in a cage of society that has these rules and these mores and these values that are encoded in your DNA from millennia of existence. And you are capable of changing those thoughts. And you're able to believe that dragons actually exist. And you're able to believe that aliens and inner earth beings actually exist. And you can believe that your little daughter really saw a fairy. And those things can be totally and completely true. And we can be bright and shiny and godlike and not have war and poverty and racism and all the other crazy stuff going on in the world, because everyone's focused on, ooh, I like getting these things. Ooh, what lesson am I learning? Instead of, why me? Oh, why me? There's no more victim and martyr. There's literally just warrior energy. You're just this peaceful warrior who stands up for what she believes in and fights the good fight when she needs to. But for the most part, just walking into a room will neutralize the negative energy that was there. People will leave rooms. I've literally cleared out parts of parties and everyone is like, oh my God, thank you for getting those people to leave. And I'm like, I was 25 minutes late, guys. And they're like, thank you. Like, those were 25 minutes of hell. Oh, okay. Glad I didn't meet them. Where's the champagne? Hi, I'm here.
Now, another thing you touched on with that is the generational trauma. Something that a lot of people don't realize, and it's really, I feel like just now starting to be touched on in society, is the generational trauma. And we sit here and we play the pity party, like you just described, and we wallow in our sadness and frustration and anger, and we breed negativity, surround ourselves with the negativity. If positive people come in, we try to drag them down into our negativity. And what we're not understanding is that is all based on generational trauma that was handed down to you at birth, maybe even at conception. And our parents didn't know how to handle it. So they handed us the buckets and added to it. And now we're sitting here with a pool of generational trauma and we're like, what the hell do we do with it?
Yeah.
I love that you're touching on that.
Yeah, it's a really big part for me because I always asked my mom, she was the empath, right? So my dad was always just along for the ride. They're an extremely codependent relationship. They're an awesome reflection of what I will not allow my marriage to be. Because they also met when they were young and they've been married for a long time. There's a lot of things within their marriage that are very mirrored to my own, where my husband lived across the street when I was 12 and we started dating when we were 18 and we got married when we were 20 and we've been married for 12 years. Like, that's not like the thing that happens every day. So you have to really work. If you're kids, when you get married, you have to really, really, really grow up together or you grow apart. And there have been times. I even asked
you. When we were talking, I was like, are you still married? Because most people that get married so young don't last.
Yeah, no, we almost, even COVID almost pulled us apart, honestly. I was ready to leave. And it was finally, I was like, no, you get to step up now. You want this, you do. And he followed and was like, no, you can't leave because I will do whatever it takes. And that triggered all of my self-worth all over again. Holy crap, I'm valuable enough to be fought for? Hold the phone. Wait a second. Instead of what I had created was, I won't believe anything that he changes because he's not doing it authentically. And it really took him stepping up and doing a lot of the things that I the first day asked him to do, within a week had started doing them. I was like, oh, snap. Okay. Sitting in front of, I am worth someone fighting for me and just like crying my eyes out. And you know that it's something that you don't actually believe about you when you're crying. So you know that it's something that you believe when it's either neutral, or if it's something negative, like I am Donald Trump, you start laughing about it. When at first you like can't even get it out. Like I'm done. And like it just like doesn't come out, and then you do say it and you're angry, like I am an abuser. And you like let the rage out because you're like, okay, yeah, I am an abuser. I am. And then eventually you're like, this is ridiculous. And it allows you to not fight that, like not let it come out later. But our parents didn't have that at all. They were all new age hippies, Wayne Dyer and even Tony Robbins near the end, Marianne Williamson, Debbie Ford. Those are all people that were around in the 90s. And like, these many people knew about him. Like a million people knew who those people were. Now you're dealing with closer to 80 million or even a billion. There's a billion people on Facebook. So there's a way for this message to be growing, even though it's out there. It's been out there. And the generational thing for me was always, why does dad care? Why does he care that when he was 12, his brother like swung a baseball bat at him and broke his arm? Why does he care that his mom like was an alcoholic and fell asleep on the couch all the time? Like, why does he like, and he would tell me about how he got hit and like use that as justification when he would hit me, and just like, why is that okay? Like, why are you telling me this is a just, but then it like compounded when I went to therapy, this story that your story is already written, that your story is this combination of what happens to you in childhood. And it wasn't until I found life coaching or any of that stuff where they start talking about like, yeah, your story's nice, but like, where do you want to go? That all of a sudden I was like, wait, hold on. No, like I'm a suburban housewife. This is my lot in life for the next 18 years. I'm just going to be chained up here. Blah. And they're like, no, actually you have a really awesome thing that you do. And like all these things that I was like, wait, what? This is just how I am. And they're like, right. So because you have all this life experience that other people don't have, that actually gives you the authority to help other people with similar stories move on with their lives. And I was like, what? Excuse you?
Yes, that is so true. And that's really what I base my business off of personally, is rewriting your story. You don't have to fulfill the story that was handed to you at childhood. I did that. I lived the story that was handed to me at childhood. It almost took my life. It took my daughter's life. It literally, I was drowning in the generational curse until finally I decided to pull my head out of my ass and go, I don't have to accept this. And it, just like you, it was by a life coach that helped to pull my head out of my ass and say, why do you keep doing it? If you don't want to do it, stop. And I was like, what do you mean stop? Like, you can't just stop.
This is just how I am.
It's just me. This is me. This is what I've been told for the last 32 years. This is me.
Totally.
So, it's so amazing how once you do go from unconscious to conscious, you can literally see, oh, that's nothing. I don't need to believe that anymore. I can literally shed my skin of the past, leave it at the door, and put on this new costume and make this me.
Yeah. And that's why, and that's why I think so many people stay in the conscious realm, honestly, because it's already so revolutionary when it comes to the masses. But there are those people that I come across pretty much every day that are like, so when are we going to get off planet? Like, when are the replicators coming? When are the things that, like, this is cool and all, but we still have racism and we're still dealing with a pandemic the same way we did. And there's all this crazy corporatism, evil crap going on, and global blah, like conspiracy theories are no longer being considered conspiracy theories. They're the legit stuff. And it's just like, it's getting a little insane out there. For some people too, they're like, oh, I can't believe anything. I'm just going to turn everything off. I'm going to completely check out. So what happens is that these conscious people decide I'm only going to be conscious about the parts of my life that work for me. And I'm going to turn off to the rest of it. I'm not, oh, screw politics. I'm above that. Like, oh, okay, I'll donate my money to the NAACP, but I'm not going to do this. And they get stuck in like really comfortable excellence. They make tons and tons of money. They help lots and lots of people. And they're not willing to be audacious enough to say, you know what if I really could be psychic? What if I'm telepathic? What if I can really heal people, like White Lighter status from Charmed back in the early 2000s? And these things that quantum science is like, well, the second that you think something, it's actually possible in some part of the world, like that, the stuff that Joe Dispenza teaches. And then add esoteric magic and hermeticism and ancient Egyptology and alchemy. Shadow work really is what they were doing back then. Nobody talks about it. They think they're talking about actual lead turning into actual gold, which maybe they were so connected to spirit and so connected to source and so connected to all those things that they were able to. But right now in this day and age, the gold is in the lead of your life. You go through and you change the vibration around those stories, either by fully releasing them or deciding that they're actually a powerful part of your life. Or uncovering these powerful parts of your life you forgot about. I had totally forgotten about the fact that I had stood on the Capitol steps until like 2 years ago, when like one of the horrific events that have happened, unfortunately, in this country occurred. But it was like something that, because all the other shadows were out of the way, I remembered this really positive memory from my childhood, and then started going through my childhood, and when the dragon's energy dropped in, just decided that all the bad memories I had, I was going to go back through one by one and be like, no, my dragon's got me. Like, I'm protected. There's a reason for this. And nobody can decide what my memories are. No one decides those. So if I want to time travel, which is what I call it, time travel through my own memory banks and insert new memories, then like, why wouldn't I? Why would I try to find out the truth and dig so deep that my head explodes and have extremely uncomfortable conversations with my parents who are so not with it that they are never going to tell me the truth anyway, and I'm going to leave the thing so mad? Because that's the thing about our parents. They are the ones who did this to us, and they didn't mean to, but they were one generation removed from the Great Depression. They had so many things going on that we will never understand. And then they lived through the Golden Age, which happened because World War II happened and the whole rest of the world was torn in shambles. So the American people were booming. It's a total anomaly in history. It will never happen again. But if you were born middle-class white in America, that's what you dealt with. You dealt with this white-collar, higher blue-collar management level abuse of literally you have to be perfect. You have to be bright and shiny new. We need the newest this. We need the best model. We need the... That's how you were raised, especially millennials. Millennials, we were raised with this like star, like gold star and participation and having 100 different activities. And yet this fear... Elizabeth Smart, do you remember that happening? The first like big abduction that occurred, the whole country freaked. That was here in Salt Lake. No little girls on the street ever again. You never saw one. We just all disappeared inside of our houses. And all of the fear began coming in. Like nobody was riding their bikes. Like nobody came in when the lights turned off. Like you started getting a cell phone when you were 10. All these things started happening. Because all this fear, because we were getting more connected. So these news stories were happening faster. And our old analog parents were like, the world is exploding. I got to protect my precious gem. Which then just exacerbated our self-esteem issues. We were just trying to be kids. And then we were having to be perfect miniature adults that were going to go to Stanford. We were all going to get scholarships to Stanford because everyone needed a college degree and all like... It's weird. It's weird how much we can like see collectively how each generation adds to the layer of the collective BS. And then to know that the way that we actually affect the most change is by looking in the mirror and doing our own work and journaling and having deep conversations and hiring your own coach and connecting to your spirit guides and your dragons and your angels and whoever. Like you work on you and that's how you change the world. That's kind of narcissistic, but okay.
That's what, I mean, I truly believe that by healing yourself, you're healing the world.
It is. It's true.
Yeah. By healing yourself, you are no longer putting out negative energy to add to the already overwhelming amount of negativity out there. And simply by being able to put out that positive energy, it's canceling out the negative.
And it pushes you to a higher realm of where things, that's what the law of attraction is trying to say. Like there's not as many people competing for the resources and higher vibrations. So they're going to attract each other. Law of attraction is still consciousness as far as I'm like going into that conscious, not the super conscious. Because the super conscious is I'm my own frequency. I can just pull something straight from source, which is still me, and create something that literally has never existed before. Instead of, oh, I'm going to think of something and then one day I'll have $1 million. No, I'm going to create, Like Elon Musk is someone that I would consider super conscious. Elon Musk also microdoses on psilocybin on a regular basis, but whatever. If that's what we're doing as a human species, is starting to access levels of our brain that right now a normal person can only access when using hallucinogens, I'm actually with it. Because what we've been doing for the last couple thousand years, I'm not with it. So let's think outside of, like, let's get even bigger outside the box. Like, let's just be so zoomed out on what, like, this, not the sky's not the limit, the universe is the limit. Literally anything in the world could happen. I tell people all the time I'm going to be president of the United States one day. Because if I can believe in my heart that I'll be president, then all of the other crazy stuff that'll happen in between on my way, it doesn't even matter if I'm never president. Because my life will be amazing with having such an audacious goal. I want to be an Olympic athlete. Maybe that's what, like, I tell people that I train energetic Olympians, because when they talk to me, they're like, you sound like the Olympic athlete I just watched an interview of. And I'm like, yep, because we're on the same wavelength. You literally can achieve anything that you put your mindset to. That Muhammad Ali quote, if you can believe it and conceive it, you can achieve it. That, whatever it is, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. That's 100 billion 1,000% accurate. Not just to the point of I can have a debt-free house, I can be debt-free, my own house, and have good health and be able to retire. That's human-ish. It's all human. I'm talking Star Trek. I'm talking Harry Potter in real life. You guys watch The Magicians? I want break bills, not Harvard. Like,
I love that show.
I love it too. I'm told
my whole family binged it for like a month.
Who are you? Who are you most related? Who do you think you are?
Juliet.
Yeah, I'm a Margot. I'm totally Margot. 100%
I can see that.
Margot.
I can totally see that. I want to heal the world. I want to fall on the sword. I want to fix everybody. I don't care.
I used to
if
be.
I lose my life in the process. Yeah, I'm working on getting to the Margot level. I'm not there yet, but at least I'm conscious about that.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing about when you can have that command. When we were talking about the word, you really can be like, yeah, someone could kill me, and I'm okay with that because I'm living every single day so big and so bright that I'll never have a regret ever. And I'm an infinite being, so I'll just come back and haunt your ass if you murder me.
So, final question for you. What are 3 pieces of gold nuggets you would give to our viewers that would help them shift perspective and eliminate limiting beliefs?
Okay, the first thing, stop doing your affirmations while putting your makeup on. Do them naked with no makeup on, ladies, like fresh out of the shower if you can, or fresh out of bed. It really changes the whole energy of it completely and gives you more of that ability to access the emotional charge and see where those limiting beliefs still actually exist, versus putting on a mask of being like, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am successful. Like, no. The second thing is that you have the power to go to any traumatic memory and rewrite it, because the memory only exists in your own memory banks and there isn't a true version of it. That's why they don't take eyewitness accounts anymore, because it literally can't be, it's too subjective. So any trauma can be rewritten in a matter of moments. It doesn't take years at all, or even months or even weeks. I have had clients rewrite entire belief systems in 40 minutes. And then the final thing is that you have to stop dimming your light to make other people comfortable. That's such a good one. Get big, get bright, get loud. Be able to walk into a room and be the most magnetic thing in the room and not care who walks up to you. Be able to say whatever you want to whomever you want, wherever and whenever you want, because you're willing to take authority and responsibility for those consequences, because nothing matters. Literally nothing matters if you're being that big and that bright and that true to your unique frequency.
I love those. Those are amazing. Maybe the best I've heard yet. Awesome.
Thank you.
So where can people find you if they want to work with you?
So Caryn Terres, you can see right there at the bottom. I am literally the only one with that spelling of name on the entire planet. So carynterres.com is my website. Caryn Terres on YouTube, on social media, all of them. Literally, you can't not find me because I'm the only one of me that exists.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's show. The vibration was high.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for interacting with us, for asking your brilliant questions. If you want to join the Breakthrough Belief community, you can find our group on Facebook at Women Empowered to Heal. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please like and subscribe and share this episode with everyone that needs to hear it. And honestly, I feel like anyone that is alive in this world right now needs to hear this episode so that they can begin to heal themselves and go from unconscious to conscious and from conscious to super conscious. You guys, Caryn's absolutely amazing. Please connect with her. Please share this and help her get heard because her message is powerful. Thank you once again. You guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.